On a Monday morning, I'm meteorologist Rod Hill, joined by meteorologist Chris McGinness, talking about the atmospheric river event that started Saturday. Soaker. We had that really nice break in the action last night. And then my part of the story moving forward is going to be the wind, and you're going to be covering
some of the road impacts and the river impacts from the flooding that we've had, the rain that we've had, and the rain that we still might yet have coming with this storm. But I think you want to kind of get into the wind issue first. So
Chris is going to switch places and get to another part of our weather studio. This low is the engine for what we're going to be talking about. And if you look at the big classic comma or curl, that is a textbook image of a strong low pressure center. It is developing quickly, not quickly enough to be classified as a so-called bomb cyclone that we had back in November, but minus that classification, it is developing about as quickly as one could. That means it's going to turn into a pretty good wind machine. Now, let me go ahead and give you the headlines for the wind warning issued along the coast from the National Weather Service, and a wind advisory up and down I-5, Albany, all the way up into Cowlitz County from the National Weather Service as well. The wind warning is technically already in play and will be in play at least to the 4 a.m. hour of Tuesday morning. For the coast, south winds 30 to 40, gusting to about 70. The valley wind advisory goes into play as soon as noon today, just a couple hours away, and that will also be in play until about 4 a.m. overnight. We are looking for potential gusts from the south of 45 to 50 miles per hour. I think the worst of both of these winds will actually set up in the evening hours, which is what I have on this line right here. And I will show you the wind animations of the speeds and timing that we are tracking. But for now, let's get back to the rain part of the story that developed in the early afternoon hours of Saturday here in Portland. Here's Chris McGinness.
You know, we've actually got some pretty good video too, if we can bring that up on our other weather system. This was video shot just this morning at Clackamas Park of the Clackamas River coming up really high, again just west of Oregon City as it makes its way out to the Willamette River. So let's get back here to the graphic. This is a great tool from the National Weather Service showing all the various river gauges around the area. I want to zoom in real quick because the good news is in Oregon City, the Clackamas River has come up near flood stage, but has peaked out at just shy of 37 feet. And you can see now it's forecast to continue dropping. So despite the expected additional rainfall and snow melt that's coming in later this afternoon and tonight, we're not expected to see any major issues in the Clackamas River. And in fact, that flood warning has been canceled. We do have two active river flood warnings, though, that are ongoing in the area right now. The Pudding River at Aurora is forecast to get up to just shy of 22 feet, which is minor flooding, generally of just agricultural land in and around that area, but just good to know that. And one other spot that we want to check out over on the west side in Hillsborough, we'll zoom in real quick, the Tualatin River, which is a notorious water or area that can get a little flashy when we get a real heavy rain event like what we had over the weekend. It's expected to get up to just shy of 17 feet. So maybe in the minor agricultural flooding area with the Tualatin River, but outside of that, it looks like we've kind of dodged the proverbial bullet in terms of river flooding around the area, despite the fact that, of course, Rod, there's still more rain coming in and still relatively high snow levels for at least the next 18 hours or so.
Hey, Chris, if you could pull up the Clackamas River again for us, which is, we reported live our Ashley Grahams down at Clackamas Park earlier this morning. And what I wanted to show you is I can't see close enough with my old eyes, but when does that flatline? Is that Wednesday when the river levels get way back down?
Let's go ahead, and that's, we're getting back, well, this is kind of towards the end of the week and into the weekend, actually, but you want to talk about here, prior to the crest, or flatline in the future here?
I'm just wondering when we kind of flatline. I know we rapidly start to fall overnight tonight. Is that what it's showing?
Yes. Yeah. So we peaked out at just shy of 37 feet. River level dropping quickly, by the way, and it's forecast to continue dropping steadily through, what day is this? This is through Thursday, and then it should get back just running a little bit above normal 26-foot stage in that part of our forecast.
Well, that really shows a quick up and a quick down.
Yeah, real quick spike there, obviously attributed to the high snow levels and the snow melt with the rain that we had over the weekend.
Yeah, I jotted down what Timberline had snowpack-wise on Friday, so I could keep track of how much snow had melted. So on Friday, they had a base at 6,000 feet of 141 inches. And this morning that base was down to about 130. So they basically melted off a foot of snow. And so all of that goes into the river drainage basins along with the rain. And that's why this time around, it seems like it's the rivers that are connected coming out of the Cascades more so than the Coast Range, meaning the rain amount itself, thankfully, hasn't been enough to do that much, rising in terms of flooding over those rivers in the Coast Range. So kind of flip-flop what you often see. Anyway, here's the big low I mentioned a moment ago. Really impressive wind machine. So it's going to be curling up near the Oregon coast this evening and then push inland overnight into Washington and then actually weaken as it continues to push up north into Canada. A moment ago, we did talk about the fact that the coast is now under a wind warning through 4 a.m. The wind advisory for the valley starts at noon today and goes through also 4 a.m. Here's our futurecast model with the track of the low, and it's the enclosed contour right here, or I think this is actually the upper level, or excuse me, the surface winds. That'd be an isobar of equal pressure. But here's the low. And notice how these lines are going to get closer together. This is 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then here we are at 7 o'clock. Now we're in the main rain event. It's a little bit closer to the coast, the main wind event. Winds are picking up. Here we are at 10 o'clock. Again, strong fetches of south-southwest winds coming all the way up into Seattle. And then finally at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, see how the lines are more widely spaced. The low is weakening and eventually will fall apart up into Vancouver. So I think these numbers have a chance of being really good. This is our futurecast model. This is 6:30 this evening, and it's showing 52-mile-per-hour winds pretty much straight up from the south in Newport, 48 in Lincoln City. Could be some winds gusting in this area, jumping up closer to 60. And then we're starting to see winds pick up. Here's Hillsboro south straight up at 37, Salem and Corvallis. There's Sweet Home at 38. Now 8 o'clock. Now we've got 40 in Corvallis, 43 Salem, 40 in Portland. Keep in mind, 8 o'clock. We're going to add some hours to this. Now here we are in the 10 o'clock hour. Now we're 43 Salem, 43 Portland, 43 in Hillsboro. So if this is correct, this has now been a 40-plus mile-per-hour wind gust potential event for over 2 hours. And now we're getting into, here's coming up on 11:30. Remember the wind forecast potential 50-mile-per-hour winds? Here's a south wind at 47. Now it's been going on for almost 3.5 hours. And then that continues well past midnight. And then getting into 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, still noticeably breezy out, but the main wind threat is over. So this graphic, which the screen grab didn't come out perfectly clear, but this is for Portland site specific. This is a combination of all the different weather models that we look at. And what it's showing you is that the main gust threads between 4 p.m. this afternoon and 4 a.m. Tuesday morning with peak winds right here. See how most of the models are at least showing 30-mile-per-hour wind spikes? And then you've got quite a few of them still spiking up here in the 40, 45 mile per hour range. And interesting that it does like at least the potential for some isolated winds hitting as high as 60 to 63 miles per hour. So a couple things to note. Number one, seeing a 40-mile-per-hour wind gust potential for 3-4 hours or longer, that is significant, and that is longer than we typically will see these wind events last. And of course, if we get up above 50, that certainly heightens the threat of multiplying the power outage threat and multiplying the threat for downed trees and tree debris and that sort of thing over roadways. So the impact definitely includes power outages. And I said on Sunrise this morning, I mean, think about this. It'll be raining heavily potentially too. Do you want to be out in the rain and 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts driving? I don't. So maybe you want to alter your plans if you can. We did look back real quickly to past wind events this season. November 1920th, remember the bomb cyclone, ended up being a bigger widespread impact story up in Seattle. But here locally, we did have along the Oregon coast 70 mile per hour wind gusts, and then the valley we had some 45 mile per hour wind gusts. Christmas night into the morning of the 26th, this was a wind event, if I remember correctly, it lasted a couple of hours. We had a gust of 62 in Scappoose, Salem had 51, PDX had 44. And now we're looking potentially at number 3 coming on this evening of the 24th, with the forecast being 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. We saw there is at least potential for some higher spikes and lasting some 3 to 5 hours with all of that. Right now, again, the winds are just kind of more typical. In fact, east at only 7 out of PDX. Our temperature is 47 degrees. We're getting some breaks in the rain. But you can see we're going to continue to see these more waves. You want to go back to that buff kit? Model?
The current condition.
The current condition.
Because this is not something you see often in Portland Ob.
This one?
Yep.
All right. What are you looking at?
The barometer.
The barometer. What do you got? Oh, yes.
FR.
29.77 and falling.
Rapidly.
Say something intelligent while I step across. I'm going to get something out of my notes.
I was going to say, well, what that's basically indicating is that low that Rod's been talking about is A, it's getting closer, but also that the barometer here is dropping quickly, an indication that we are now starting to feel the impact of that low moving closer and the depth of that low, because that's not an observation you see very often, right?
So this is the entrance into setting up a potential wind event, because falling pressure can equate into wind. So Chris, we talked earlier just before we started this live stream, so if you're kind of a weather guru and you like these things, the European model at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon was showing the first signs of developing this low that we're now tracking. At that time, it has central pressure of 970 millibars. 996 millibars. This is a surface low, 996. By 4 p.m. this afternoon, that same low that was developing yesterday at 996 is going to be all the way down to 980 millibars.
That's a 16 millibar drop in 24 hours.
And again, that's the classic definition for a so-called bomb cyclone is a 24 millibar drop in 24 hours. That's easy to remember. It's 24 and 24. But
still substantial.
That's substantial.
Yes.
And if you look at the packing of the pressure lines on a weather model, it is a wind machine, no doubt.
For sure. One other thing, of course, we wanted to kind of relay too is the fact that while it's probably not the biggest thing on people's minds, the road closures from the flooding, the fact that we could have additional road closures with downed trees and whatnot with the winds. This is the flooding that we showed you again at the top here at Clackamas Park. But I wanted to show you a couple of updates that we talked about this morning. This was Highway 30 out near Rowena. This is in the East Gorge, just west of the Dalles. There's an area of rockfall, ODOT out there actually getting that all cleaned up. I can tell you that section of roadway, those are some big rocks, by the way. They don't look big, but
that's a pretty picture too.
It was, and those are some big rocks that you don't want to be running over. I can let you know that ODOT has just reopened that road. So that section of Highway 30 out in the gorge has reopened. Highway 224 near Estacada had a landslide late last night. We don't have any pictures of that, but I can tell you that road is closed. That was an area that was severely impacted by the 2020 wildfires. So there again, rain over burn scars, creating mudslides and landslides, right? And what you're looking at here is in the west side of Portland. This is Cornell Road out near Thompson. That was a photograph that the Portland Bureau of Transportation took yesterday. Pretty substantial mud flow there, and the impact is that Cornell Road remains closed between Skyline and Thompson, and that is probably going to be the rest of today. And then I can't imagine with the wind being as gusty as it's going to be this afternoon and tonight that anybody's going to want to be out cleaning that stuff up right now. So whatever is closed as that wind moves in is probably going to remain closed at least overnight. So
when I looked at the river warnings this morning, and none of them included the classic rivers coming out of the Coast Range, and like not the Wilson River, which flows into Tillamook County, not the Nehalem River that so infinitely, that was one that, was the Nehalem River that flooded Vernonia, am I thinking right?
Nehalem and Clatsop County, yeah. 2007.
None of those are under warnings, and you have not noticed any issues over the Coast Range at all?
No, we got the Lucky Butte, right, which drains into the Albany area.
Down, I think that's correct,
Central, and that's still running, that's running up, but it's not, endangering anyone at this point.
I did notice this when I was looking at the track of that low. The National Weather Service, their marine forecast calls for combined seas to go as high quickly overnight tonight as 35 feet. You talk about good storm viewing from a distance, maybe from the safety of a window in a hotel. But boy, that's a big, that 35-foot storm seas getting down below 20 feet at some point tomorrow afternoon. That's the marine forecast.
Taking a boat out
from that big low.
Crabbing.
Yeah. All right, here's the current radar. Again, we're going to get some breaks in the rain at times today, but just more waves of rain coming up. Again, the modeling is suggesting that from about sunup this morning through early tomorrow morning that we're looking at anywhere from another 0.6 to an inch of rain. I think this just showed you a lightning box.
And that could be anywhere within the domain here. So we're not. I'm looking just like you are for the actual lightning strike on there. I don't see it.
But tell you, some of the indices are low enough for a lightning threat. I know meteorologist Joe Ranieri touched on this when he did the news last night. When you looked at the satellite imagery of this thing offshore yesterday, when I was looking at it, there were all kinds of lightning strikes. Now, it would be a little unusual for us to get lightning inland with so much solid bands of rain. Not saying it can't happen, but we don't see that very often. But something else for us to keep an eye on nonetheless.
Maybe we can take you live right now to the Oregon coast, a live look from the Chinook Winds Casino Resort there in Lincoln City. Yeah, the sea's definitely building.
The seas are angry, my friend.
They are, and they're probably going to get a little angrier as that storm continues developing and coming towards the mouth of the Columbia. I don't know that I heard you mention this off the top, but it's at that really favorable track too, with the storm intensity and then the location where it's just to our northwest, kind of going by the mouth of the Columbia, being kind of a favorable spot. When we see those really strong south wind events, that is a typical track of such storms where they develop right around here and then they just kind of shoot right, like, you know, they're close enough that we shut off the east wind and it becomes a south wind event. Here's
that future cast showing. This is the low isobars, Chris. Go ahead.
Just directly offshore of the Columbia Bar, basically. What is that about? That's about 200-300 miles offshore there.
That's 4:30 this afternoon.
Yeah.
Here's 7:30. See it moving up to the north.
Just kind of right on that perfect south wind storm path for us.
And here's the fetch of south winds where you see these kind of purple and gold color arrows coming up into the area. I'm wondering if there's not a batch of wind that's even stronger up in western Washington than what we'll get this time around. Here's 10:30 tonight. Again, the low clearly moving up to the north, and then it fades away quickly up here in south of Vancouver, BC. This is tomorrow morning at 7:20, and the winds turn more to the west.
But still not light.
No, it's still noticeably breezy, yeah.
There's still 20 to 30 mile an hour wind gusts tomorrow morning. So tomorrow is still going to be a breezy day, which means that anything that was, you know, buffeted around by 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts overnight could, maybe the 35 mile an hour wind gust early tomorrow morning is the final thing that, you know, breaks that tree limb or something like that. So tree limbs down, power outages, all possible in the cards with this storm overnight tonight.
Anything else, sir, you want to add?
That's all I got.
I'm going to flip it to the 7-day real quick then. Here we go. A KGW weather impact alert up into the morning hours of tomorrow. We do think it's the morning hours of tomorrow that the main wind threat fades away, the damaging wind threat. To Chris's point, still noticeably breezy. And the rains, I think, while the rain chance may not be zero tomorrow afternoon, pretty much end as we go into the afternoon hours. And then that is it. And then we're just gorgeous.
Spring.
Yeah, with temperatures 60 or better. Actually, it's 60, what was it, 60 or 61 yesterday at the airport at PDX.
First 60-degree day since November.
Yeah. We're going to do it again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The system I'm looking at this weekend is a weak system. To me, it's maybe 1,107 of scattered showers developing the latter part of Saturday night into Sunday morning, and we stay pretty mild in the 50s. The other note before we get out of here is that the snow level, which was 7,000 feet, I talked about melting off nearly a foot of snow at pass level over the weekend. That is lowering during the day today, and the Weather Service is projecting 1 to as much as 2 feet of snow above 4,000 feet, the higher amounts when you get up in elevation.
And also into the state of Washington.
Yeah.
Higher amounts at lower levels in the state of Washington. So getting up, you know, not in Trout Lake per se, but in the areas around Trout Lake at maybe as low as 3,000 to 3,500 feet farther north in Washington state. So
we made a big deal of it. It was just going to be rain over the weekend up over the Cascades, but snow over the passes will be returning. Looks like tonight into tomorrow morning, or at least snow level near those passes. So FYI on that. And for Chris McGinness, I'm Rod Hill. Let's look forward to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's be safe tonight. You know, driving rains and gusty winds, power outages. Be prepared. We'll talk to you soon.